Hey folks, today we are fortunate to have with us Dr. Ahmed Alaina, who is a physical therapist. And do you have your own clinic, or it seems like your business is kind of a one-man operation? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So I have my own clinic. I am the solo physical therapist in that clinic. I have a massage therapist that works kind of alongside me, but as far as physical therapy goes, I'm the only physical therapist there. Yep.
Great. And can you tell us a little bit about what drew you to physical therapy? Do you have an athletic background? Did you have any injuries, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's exactly right. My story is, I guess, somewhat kind of similar as far as like growing up playing sports, being super active, always exercising my entire life. Got to college, originally planned to go to law school. When I got to college, it wasn't kind of attracting me anymore. So I met with my advisor and they're like, well, what do you want to major in? I was like, I don't know. What do you have? And I was like going down the list and it was like exercise and sports science. I said, I like to exercise. I played a bunch of sports. Let's do that. Had no idea what the degree was, had no idea what I was kind of going to go into after that. So like halfway through my bachelor's degree in exercise science, I started to question like, what can I do with this? It was like be a personal trainer, be PT, PE teacher, and those were fine. It just didn't seem like it was going to be all that fulfilling for the most part. So I just started talking to my professors and stuff, and they were like, "Have you thought about physical therapy school?" And I was like, all I know about physical therapy is the experience that I had with physical therapy. So I had a rotator cuff surgery and labral surgery in my shoulder coming out of high school.
Okay.
I played quarterback. I got hit from behind as I was throwing. And I had a really poor experience with physical therapy. My
Oh,
goal was to walk on
interesting.
to the University of Memphis to play. And I was working with this therapist after I graduated and like telling him like, hey, like my goal is to like play quarterback in college. Like I want to try to walk on, like all this stuff. And he just kept telling me like, hey, just keep doing the same stuff we've been doing. And I'm like rehabbing next to, people in their 60s and 70s with shoulder replacements, doing the same exercises they are. And it was frustrating for a 17-year-old to do that. So that was my experience with physical therapy. Obviously, I never walked on, never played football pretty much again after high school. So as they were telling me about physical therapy, I was like, that was my take on physical therapy, and I felt like I can do that better at a younger age. So that's kind of what kind of pushed me into the physical therapy route.
That's fascinating. Fascinating. I thought you were going to tell me about a formative, positive experience. And so
Yeah,
I'm even more interested now because you you didn't use the experience to develop a distaste for the field. More, you saw that as an avenue that you could do your part to elevate the field as compared to some practitioners. And I share that with you, although I would say in my space, it's even more wild, wild west. And I've developed over the years, this is the most diplomatic way I can say I can respond to a client who tells me they've had a poor experience with a personal trainer. There is a wide variety of competencies and
yeah,
quality of service that is provided in my particular field. So
yes,
I try to arm them with the criteria that they would use to not just to have a basic framework to operate from, to have confidence, and of course a referral from a PT or from an orthopedic surgeon, there's an implied endorsement and an awareness there about the caliber. But there's no substitute for at least having um, a base level of awareness about the educational framework, if not having gone to, like, I didn't get a kinesiology degree like you. I was going to be an accountant, and I did that in corporate finance, high tech finance for about 13 or 14 years. And I wanted to do something that I thought I would love. And so at 36, I changed careers. But the point is, when I went back for my master's, I was glad I already had a bachelor's degree, even though it was in finance. But at that point, I was absolutely focused and devoted. And through, all the continuing ed I've had over the years, this is my 30th year, it wasn't all new material for me, obviously, right? So that was helpful. But back to your not so great experience and then deciding that you wanted to help people in a way that were not serviced yourself. What I'm really laser focusing on is maybe not so much the competency level of your PT, but the PT's ability to appropriately address your profile in that situation, right? Because you mentioned the 60s and 70-year-olds just trying to get their arm in a coat, type thing,
Yep.
or sleep with their arm under the pillow without, horrible pain when they
Yeah.
woke up, kind of thing. So tell me about that. I'm going to sort of bridge the gap there because, as you know, we older folks sometimes we are athletic. It's a small but rapidly growing community, and
Yeah.
it's the community that I try to support, and I am a peer for those folks as well as a guide. Tell me about the patients that you've had that are 50 plus, 60 plus, who have really maintained a base level of fitness for decades. Maybe they came from a specific sport, maybe they didn't, but they want to be able to do an obstacle course race with their kids or their grandkids, or they're still doing the pickup, volleyball league thing or soccer on Sundays with their pals or whatever. Tell me about your experience with those folks and how it's different from general population.
Yeah. Man, first of all, I mean, the people that are above the ages of 50, man, I have probably the utmost respect for those guys, probably more than the professional and D1 guys that I work with. I'm not old by any means, but as I get older, I definitely respect people more and more as they've been telling me they've been doing whatever it's been for, 30 plus years to be able to be that
Sure.
consistent with the way your body starts to feel. I can imagine after the age of 50, but so I actually own a former CrossFit affiliated gym as
Okay.
well. So I actually get to use my exercise science degree quite a bit as I program for that. We aren't affiliated with CrossFit anymore. The programming is kind of CrossFit like, but there's also a lot of prehab stuff that's in there.
Sure.
So that's where I work quite a bit with, 50 plus 50. I actually have a 77-year-old in the gym right now who
That's
trains
great.
with us. But yeah, so I get to work quite a bit with them. They I think the biggest thing with them, man, is like you got to have some stubbornness to you. Like they are like stubborn, man. Like they will. I'm like,
Plus
hey,
we
like
think
let's.
plus we think we
Uh
know everything already. So you gotta
Yeah,
convince us, right? Like give me the rationale behind it and then I'll decide whether you're right.
exactly. But like that. I mean, it takes a little bit of stubbornness to be able to be in fitness for that long. To
Sure.
be able to say like, I'm not going to let my age stop me from doing a squat or deadlift or whatever that may be, or do the CrossFit comp with these bunch of 20s and 30-year olds. So you gotta have a tough mind, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing that kind of drives people towards it as far as the older population goes. Um, but but yeah, it's definitely fun. It's definitely fulfilling to be able to see, like that 77-year-old that I work with. I see him on the PT side, but I also get to observe him as my coaches coach him in on the gym side, and being able to have somebody at 77 say they PR their deadlift is kind of crazy.
Right. I think one of the things that is maybe a subset of that is, we've had a chance to experiment with a lot of different things. See the principles and the characteristics and the frameworks that continue to resurface as sound, fundamental, you know, sets of principles to operate from. If it, Even though they're adapted to our individual profiles and our ambitions, but I mean, quite frankly, we have less time to waste.
Yeah,
So we tend to really want to be able to invest our trust, our time, our energy in our trusted guides. And I've been very fortunate over the years. I've got a group of people, mostly over 50, some of whom have been with me between 15 and 20 years. And there's a vernacular, there's an understanding, there's a shared respect for and appreciation of program adjustments we made over time and how they've adapted to it. There's a track record there, right? There's proof.
Yep.
There's evidence, sample size one, but a really important one, right? And some predictable um, stimulus response relationships. So, well, okay, so tell me, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question already. What are the most, for the older athletes, what are the most frequent injuries that you see?
Man, like I would probably the injuries itself, it's probably a shoulder injury, a knee, and a low back. You know, a
That's
lot
where I
of the
was going to
times it's
guess.
probably the top two, and it's more than likely coming from a programming slash overuse cause. Whether that's the programming that they're writing for themselves, or hopefully not the trainer that they're working with. But a lot of the times it's people writing or doing the workouts that they've done. The amount of times that I've heard, like, well, this is what I did in high school. So, like, this is what I know works and this is what I'm doing now. I'm like, well, you're also not,
Right,
you know, 18 anymore. So, like, that's
right,
probably going to be too much volume for you,
right.
your 10 sets of 10 bench press or whatever it may be,
Sure. And there may have been
which will lead to
imbalances
that.
embedded in that slowly compounded over the decades as well.
Yes, exactly. So I would probably go with those things. And then, as people are going to physicians or doctors, if they have knee pain, they go to the doctor or the physician and they're like, it's bone on bone. And that diagnosis of bone on bone is probably the most debilitating words that you can probably tell really any human being, because it doesn't actually give anybody, one, an answer, two, a solution
Right,
to what they're actually trying to deal with. The amount of people that I've had come to me after getting the diagnosis of bone on bone, then we can get them 75 to 85% out of pain and getting back to doing what they want to
right,
do.
right,
And obviously, I didn't change the bone on bone diagnosis. It's
right.
just they have less symptoms, and that's really what matters.
I think that's a really good point, Dr. Elena, and that is that even if the current diagnosed condition can't specifically be addressed, any work that better supports the joint and allows you to create some space in the joint that perhaps is creating too much compression because of, like you said, largely compounded, um, often single plane, often coupled with, for the knees, the impact shear force combination for runners, folks like that. I can't tell you how many people I have that I'm starting with the biggest change that I'm making from any program that they've done before is now I'm starting to have them limit the depth of flexion at the hip and the knee, touch down more softly, and doing lateral and multi-directional movements instead of all that sagittal plane movement. I was telling a client who's preparing for a triathlon, and she definitely needs some improved balance in her range of motion and strength in particular. And she's a retired endocrinologist who is a wife of a longtime client. And that's there's a level of understanding when I talk about shear force and impact and all that. But I'll be explaining something to her, and then I'll raise my crown of my rib cage because she's hunching, and I notice that she's doing that, and so it's so hard, however, whatever level of expertise or competence you have in your program, to be objective and to self-observe. And so I always appreciate when it's within the first 5 minutes or the first 5 weeks, if I've earned enough of their trust to continue that journey together. And then,
Yep.
I got to provide receipts, right? They need to feel that the conditioning level is coming up and it's easier for them to move. Pain with either limited or pain-free. And a lot of times it's early enough when I get them, or maybe after a joint replacement or that sort of thing, and they've done their post-surgical rehab, and it's, you know, the insurance ran out, so ergo, it's time
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
transition, right? So I really appreciate sharing those philosophies about, okay, here's a basic sort of approach to where you're at and getting into more mobile, less pain-stricken, condition, and to get to do some things, maybe not exactly what you were doing. I remember one client, and he's in his late 70s, multiple back surgeries, and he wants to go back to golfing. And I said, okay, here's what's happening. You've got an explosive, accelerating rotational torque and a very abrupt deceleration at the end of that. I said, let's put that on the back burner and get you moving in a way that improves your balance and your coordination and doesn't make your peripheral neuropathy in your feet worse. Okay. And then we'll move to the next step. I don't want to hear four anytime soon because maybe not, but let's do this more important stuff first. So I'm
Yeah.
sure it's much more complicated and technically demanding for you. I have sort of limited, you know, lanes in which I have to manage that, and I can always refer to up the care chain to a medical professional, which I explain to people I am not when they ask me for both a diagnosis and a prognosis and a treatment plan, all in the span of about 3 seconds while I'm running their card at the end of the session.
Exactly. That's exactly right. What do you think's
So,
going on here?
right, exactly. Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean I just, when we first touched base, I felt like, we have to have coffee or a Zoom just to chat, but I also
Yeah.
wanted to
No,
pick your
that's
brain
fair.
in a more formal way as well. So obviously, there are some physiological differences for especially 50, 60, 70 beyond, in terms of injury healing, um, and psychological. How focused are they? How on board are they with the program? Are they giving you all the feedback that you need to make the adjustments to the, given all that, would you say it's generally harder or easier to work with an older client who is active relative to a younger client who is active, or are they about the same but in different ways?
I'd probably say they're about the same in different ways.
Okay, talk
I
about that.
think each one of them have their challenges. Again, it kind of goes back to the stubbornness. Like, I think they're going to listen to what I'm telling them, and they're going to do
Mhm.
it.
Right.
Um, but as far as the younger population goes, the challenge with them is that they think they're invincible, depending on how old they are, and that they're going to heal up anyway because that's how it's usually been.
Sure.
Um, where so it's a little bit easier on the older side because they know that they're older. They know that their body doesn't just,
We're not
heal overnight when they go to
indestructible,
sleep and wake up. So they
right?
kind of expect that, but they also kind of question you a little bit more, just because, Dr. Google's out there and, that kind of thing. They
Yeah.
also will do what they'll sometimes default back to their old ways of like taking for a leave and then say, I can go run a
Yeah.
marathon anyway. And it's like, well, yeah, you're going to feel good, but the next day you're not going to feel good.
Right.
So I would say they're about the same, just in different ways. But yeah, they're definitely fun to work with.
Well, they require a different level of tolerance and patience, I think, than I've
Yes.
found that like collegiate athletes or folks in their 20s who are high school athletes or whatever, um, if they come to me referred by a medical professional or by a client, an athletic client that's older that they consider an authority figure, they're pretty responsive to my my insights, my kind of viewpoint about things. Um, and I also find, and I'm sure you do as well, that with the older clients, if you can speak, Dr. Google notwithstanding, if you can speak to their issue based on information that they shared with you with specificity for
Yeah.
them, then they're willing to take a step away from AI or some other source
Yep.
that they
Yep.
previously. So yeah, sometimes just earning that trust is a really important platform to move forward. And I would say beyond the time that we spend with them, they're more likely to look for medical professionals, fitness professionals who have those same qualities. So you're
Yep.
kind of paving the road for that too. So um, I've seen some of your content. I dig your approach. We're philosophically completely in alignment. I'll share that in the group. I'll share Dr. Lena's Facebook page. It's your business page, right? Is that correct? Your
I
Facebook.
think it's listed as a personal page. I
Okay.
do have a business. I don't know if it's translating over there or not. It could be the stuff I post. I think is on both, but I usually
Okay.
post to Instagram and it relays it to Facebook. So
Okay. So I have a request. Please post more directly into the group
okay,
because yeah, I really that that kind of contribution is so important. It helps me learn. It it further legitimizes what I'm trying to do with the group and the subscription program. And I just really enjoy your content. So
awesome. Yeah, no problem. I can definitely get that stuff posted in the group a little bit more frequently. But I appreciate you having me on.
yeah, that'd be great. Well, thank you for spending your time with us. I know you're probably pretty busy, and um, I always benefit as well. We'll maybe we can do this another time, not necessarily for the group, but just to share war stories.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I don't mind.
All right. Thanks very much,
Cool.
Dr. Ahmed Alaina. And you guys are, like I said, I'll give you his Facebook page. And again, if you would like to include anything in the description in terms of like a direct contact, either in your area or if you just want to reach out further than that, please let me know, and I'll include that in the YouTube description.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you,
Have a
Dan.
great day. Take
Yes,
care.
sir.